Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today we will journey through The Ship of Brides by Jojo Moyes. The Ship of Brides by Jojo Moyes, published in 2005, is a historical novel inspired by real events. Set in 1946, it follows a group of Australian war brides sailing to England aboard the HMS Victorious, an aircraft carrier repurposed for their transport. These women, who married British servicemen during World War II, must endure a 6-week voyage fraught with tension, hope, heartbreak, and camaraderie. As the journey unfolds, their individual stories intertwine, revealing the emotional turmoil of leaving behind their homeland and embracing an uncertain future. Plot summary. A great steel giant loomed in the Australian harbour, its deck lined with young women clutching suitcases and the weight of uncertainty. The HMS Victorious, an aircraft carrier refitted to ferry war brides to their new lives in England, stood ready to set sail. Among the 650 brides on board, each carried her own dreams and doubts. Some were eager, their love letters carefully folded in their pockets, while others held unspoken fears about the men waiting across the ocean. Maggie Donlevy, a farmer's daughter with a sturdy frame and an unwavering heart, boarded with a quiet resolve. She was one of the lucky ones, married to Joe, a man who had written to her every month since he left, his words reassuring her that he still wanted her, still dreamed of her. But Maggie wasn't traveling alone. Beneath the fabric of her dress, the swell of their unborn child was beginning to show. Frances Mackenzie, reserved and self-contained, was a former Army nurse whose past was locked away in memories she refused to revisit. With an air of quiet detachment, she observed the chaos around her. The giggling girls, the nervous glances, the hands that clutched railings as the ship pulled away from the only land they had ever known. Unlike the others, she carried no letters, no photographs. She was not sailing toward a future, only away from a past. Among their cabin mates was Jean Jamison, a 16-year-old brimming with mischief and naive excitement. She was the youngest of the brides, barely out of childhood, but determined to prove she was as grown as the rest. And then there was Avis Radley, who had never before shared space with anyone beneath her social class. Delicate and proper, she eyed the ship's accommodations with thinly veiled disdain, convinced that a mistake had been made in grouping her with these women. The Victorious was no luxury liner. It was a warship, its bunks cramped, its decks worn, its halls echoing with the boots of sailors who had never before been expected to share their space with women. The men on board were a mix of officers, engineers, and naval workers assigned to ensure the bride's safe passage. Among them was Captain Highfield, who had been given a task he did not want. His ship was meant for battle, not for shepherding women across the world. Yet here he was, burdened with a cargo of love-struck girls and the responsibility of delivering them to the men who had claimed them. The days stretched into weeks, the endless blue sea a monotonous backdrop to the small world confined within the ship's steel walls. At first, there was laughter. The women, despite their nerves, found ways to entertain themselves, braiding each other's hair, sewing new dresses from scraps, whispering about their husbands. Jean flitted among them all, her youthful energy infectious, while Avis kept her distance, her disdain for the lower-class girls growing with each passing day. But the sea had a way of stripping away pretenses. As the days rolled on, tensions flared. The cramped quarters made every flaw more pronounced. Gossip spread like fire, and friendships formed and dissolved with alarming speed. Avis, with her aristocratic upbringing, found herself at odds with the rougher girls, particularly Maggie, whose sharp tongue did not take kindly to condescension. Frances, ever the observer, found herself drawn into unexpected companionship. The captain, in stolen moments between his duties, watched her with interest. There was something in her eyes, something wounded, something hidden. He had seen it before in men returning from war, those who carried ghosts within them. And though he was a man of duty, bound to his responsibilities, he could not help but want to unravel the mystery of Frances Mackenzie. The voyage was not without its dangers. Storms battered the ship, leaving the brides clutching their bunks as the Victorious groaned against the weight of the sea. One night, amid the chaos of crashing waves and howling winds, Jean disappeared. The frantic search ended with her found huddled in the engine room, frightened but unharmed. She had gone in search of adventure, only to find herself lost in the labyrinth of the ship. The incident served as a warning. This was no pleasure cruise. The greatest threat, however, did not come from the sea, but from the hearts of those on board. Long months of separation had frayed the bonds of marriage for many, and not all the brides would be welcomed with open arms. Some letters, received late in the voyage, carried devastating news. One bride, her heart shattered, was forced to accept that the man she had married had moved on without her. She had left everything behind for a love that no longer existed. For Frances, the past she had tried so hard to escape caught up with her in the form of whispered rumors. It took only a few stray words for the brides to turn on her. She had been seen in the company of men before, British soldiers, officers. The insinuations were cruel, branding her with names that cut deeper than any wound. Even Maggie, who had come to respect her, hesitated. But Frances was no fragile thing. She had survived worse, and when the truth surfaced, it was not scandal but sorrow that silenced the whispers. Frances had loved once, fiercely and completely. But war had a way of stealing without mercy, and she had been left with nothing but memories and scars no one could see. The Victorious sailed on, each day bringing them closer to England, to the moment of truth. Would their husbands be waiting? Would they be the same men they had loved in the shadow of war? As the ship docked, the brides gathered at the railings, their eyes scanning the crowd, their fates sealed in the faces that waited below. Maggie stepped forward, her heart hammering, and there he was, Joe, the man she had dreamed of for months. His eyes met hers, and in that instant, she knew this was home. Frances lingered at the edge, watching as women rushed into waiting arms. She had no one to meet her, no letters promising love. And yet, she did not feel alone. As she turned, the captain stood there, his gaze steady, his unspoken words lingering between them. Avis, ever the lady, descended with practiced grace, though her future no longer seemed as certain as it once had. And Jean, young and reckless, laughed through her tears as she threw herself at the man who, against all odds, had waited. The ship emptied, leaving behind only echoes of the journey. Some had found love reaffirmed, others had lost it. But all of them had crossed an ocean, not just of water, but of time, of self, of the past, and what lay ahead. As the last of the brides stepped onto solid ground, the Victorious stood silent once more, its decks empty, its duty fulfilled. And the sea, endless and unchanging, waited for the next journey to begin. Hope you had fun. There's more where that came from. Explore other books by Jojo Moyes. Find them below or search Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in Jojo Moyes' original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.